Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to thank and pay our respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sero Boost, the Happiness Science Insights podcast, produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We are champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week, we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Lu Ngo, coming to your ears from Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. Let's learn together. Good morning, Essam. Thanks so much for joining the podcast. And good evening from Australia. It's really awesome that we get to be able to do this podcast episode with you, even though we're in different parts of the world. And, this is what we love doing. So thanks for joining. And as we know, you are a child psychiatrist and, you are really passionate about what you're doing and you're helping a lot of children and changing their lives. So we would love to talk to you about your expertise area in the context of happiness today, because happiness is not just something that we as adults need, but everyone needs, and we would love to be able to understand that in the context of children as well, so we can help them and understand how they can get their happiness. So before we start, we normally ask you to introduce yourself, because there's no better way for listeners to get to know you from your own words. So it would be very awesome if you could let us know who you are, what you're passionate about, obviously a little bit of background, your professional background, as well as you as a person as well.
First of all, thank you for having me. I'm really glad. Sure, for doing this also, as you mentioned, from that far away, different content. My name is Essam Daod. I'm a child psychiatrist and psychotherapist. I'm a Palestinian resident of Israel, and married. I have two kids, Reef and Alma. In 2015, I co-founded an organization called Humanity Crew that provide emergency mental health to displaced children who experience trauma. And since then, this is my passion is really trying to, let's say, to take advantage of a trauma or to transform trauma to a source of growth, especially in the children's life. And I hope that I can continue doing this work and to succeed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing to hear about the work that you do, because we don't hear about that very often. And especially because your work really affect a part of the population that need help the most. So it's wonderful that you're here today to talk about the exact same area. And obviously, before we jump in, we always discuss the topic. And today we're talking about children and negative emotion. So everyone has their own definition, and from your background, from your research, could you please share your own definition with us?
I want to share with you what is negative emotions are not, instead of what is it, because I think we we mostly think that we are talking about traumas or bad things, or the big things that happen in a child life, but at the end, most of the things that the children go through are normal things, things that actually can make them grow and can make them deal with big issues in the future and to solve problem as an adult in the future. They actually need these negative emotions and difficult situation as a as a process of learning, especially that they have us around, and then we will be helping dealing with all of this. So when we are talking about negative emotions, we have to know that we are talking about a normal process. We need to a normal experience in the child's life, and if it's happening, it doesn't mean that we are a bad parents. It's actually part of our life. And it's not about traumatic stress. It's not about trauma. It's not about, all these really, mental things that can happen to the child during his childhood that can affect him really in the adulthood. So that's right, is that we are talking about negative emotions, but there is a lot of positive things, and there is a lot of things that we can do as parents and adults that can help the children actually grow from these negative emotions.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. I think it's interesting because from my perspective, I don't have children yet, but I do have interactions with a lot of kids, nieces, nephews, and I think a lot of our listeners do as well. So it will be a really good conversation and good insights from you today to learn about how we can help children deal with their negative emotions. And before we jump into the main part of this interview, we would love to know a little bit more about you. And normally, to get to know you, we do a thing called rapid fire. So we just want to hear the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear these words. And it could be anything, it could be your recent favorite, it could be something that you really like, or something that you just heard of. Um, and there will be 10 things. So are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. So, first thing is book. What comes to your mind?
My favorite, Returning to Haifa by Ghassan Kanafani.
Hmm. What is that about?
It's about a Palestinian family that come back to visit Israel after 48. And during the 48 war, when they were displaced, due to some circumstances, they couldn't take their baby, and the baby was left at home. And a Jewish family came and settled in their house in Haifa, and they found the baby and they raised him as their child. And when the family went back to Haifa to visit after 20, 30 years, they found their boy serving in the Israeli army in the Palestinian occupation territory. So yeah, it's some kind of story of my nation, and
Mm.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
beautiful.
And
Yeah, I
also I
had
live
to ask.
in Haifa. I live in Haifa now, so it has to do.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
I had to ask because I knew that there's gotta be a connection because
yeah.
it's your favorite. Alrighty. Number two is a movie that you think of.
Oh, Life's Beautiful by Roberto Benigni. I think it's one of
Uplifting?
the great movies ever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome. I have to watch it. Number three is a podcast that you listen to.
it's really funny, but now I'm not a big fan of podcasts. I never thought.
You're doing one, but you're not really a fan. That's very
No,
interesting.
I never listened to one actually.
Well, there you go. It's okay. You can appear in a podcast, but you don't have to listen to it. Um, it's different from, from making and consuming, right? Next one is a documentary you like.
I'm appeared in the Me You Can See, produced by Prince Harry and Oprah Winfrey. So yeah, it's my favorite. I think it's a great docu series about mental health, very important, and it's raising awareness about really critical issues around mental health, and I think
Yeah.
it's my favorite.
Yeah, awesome. Number five is your famous role model.
Um, I think it's Super Fauzi, the kid in the Me You Can See. I don't know if he's, for me, he's famous. I think he's
Okay,
really.
very
Um,
interesting.
I want to be brave like him one day.
Okay, very cool. I will have to research that. I haven't heard of him before, but there you go. I learned something new today. Number six is your favorite app.
My alarm clock. I,
That's the first. This is the first time that anyone's mentioned an alarm clock. That's really good. Alrighty. Number seven, your favorite news website.
I'm a fan of newspapers. This is part of how I make myself happy all the time, because if I'm gonna go in news apps every day, you will become more and more stressed and anxious. So I keep it in the old fashioned. I have a newspaper, I read it, usually by the end of the day, not in the beginning, so I can start my day with my kids and family happy, and that's it. So yeah,
Yeah, very
no
cool.
news app in my phone.
Yeah, but that's very cool tips. Like, everyone should actually do that, which is why newspapers still survive nowadays, right? There's got to be a reason. Cool. Number 8 is your favorite artist.
Favorite what? Sorry,
Artist.
artist. Oh, I Tamer Nafar. Uh, he's I think he's one of the most important Palestinian artists. He's young. He's my age, but he's the first hip hop Arab artist. He started back in the 90s as a teenage, doing hip hop and rap. This type of music wasn't that famous and popular here in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And he struggled so much to bring this kind of music and spirit and culture to the Arab world, not only here in Palestine. And he succeed, and he's still relevant. He do songs and rap about critical issues, super important issues like gender equality and honor killing and crimes. So I think maybe there is like more important artist than him, but he's the one that enter every house and every home in Palestine and reach all people equally
Yeah.
for the last 20 years. So I think he's my favorite artist.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I will have to look up what he does and, the
Yeah.
songs, the lyrics, because that's very important. Number 9 is a course you have completed.
EMDR. It's a technique for working with children and adults who suffered from trauma.
Very important stuff for your work. So important. Great. Number 10 is an event you have attended, maybe recently, maybe before COVID, whichever comes to
Yeah,
mind.
before COVID, I attend a mass in a church in the Vatican with the Pope, like a special invitation from His Holiness. So it was. Yeah, it's inspired us, especially that His Holiness the Pope Francis, he support a lot minorities and displaced people and refugees, and his famous visit to Lampedusa in the Mediterranean. So he did a special mass in the Vatican, and he invited human rights activists working with refugees, and few refugees also live in the Vaticans, and it was really a great experience, and I was lucky to be there.
Yeah, it must have been really special to you. So that's great to hear. Hopefully, we can go back to doing events again, and we can hopefully go to, similar things. Alrighty. So hopefully after that, listeners know you a little bit better and, ready and open to hear all of your insights from your work and your research. And the first thing we want to do before going into the interview questions or the key parts is we want to discuss a little bit of practice and habit when it comes to this area.
Mhm.
And the first thing we want to know from you is what is the practice that you recommend doing to help children deal with negative emotions?
I think this is like the question itself is just show the problem more than it find the solution, because thinking of doing something, this kind of a list of stuff that we need to do with our children and to buy and to follow and the instruction, our kids are not a toy that comes with a manual that we need to follow. And that what happened, that people usually get busy with all of this stuff and what this podcast said and what the pediatrician said and the nurse and my mom, and they didn't notice that they just forget to be parents. being a parent and a mom and a father, it's something that we born with. It comes with the baby. We can get improved for sure, but the most important thing is that it's the natural feeling that we have. No one taught the cat or the dog or the elephant how to become a parent or a father or a mother. And because of, as part of this kind of globalization and the whole idea of capitalism and everything, we forgot to just to be with the kids. We are so busy with doing, and the kids don't want all of this. They just want us to be with them. So what I practice every day, that when I enter home, when I'm with my kids, I am with my kids. I don't need fancy toys. I don't need a big resort for a vacation. I don't need the phone in my hand or in my pocket. I don't need a YouTube in the back or a video or something. I just play with them with what I have. They just need me. If you just try to remember or to mentally imagine a cat with the kitties. They usually, the kitties is on the mom, and they just fighting. And so this is what we have to do: just be with your kids and leave the doing aside, and that's it.
Yeah. So what about people who are dealing with kids that aren't their own? For example, someone babysitting a baby that's or a child that
Mhm.
is dealing with some negative emotions. What should that person do? Should they just be with the kid and just do nothing, or are there any things that they could
Yeah,
do to improve
but
the
there is
situation?
a when we are talking about negative emotions, as I said in the beginning, we need to make a differentiated between a negative emotion that the kid is suffering from or dealing with for the last, like and continuously, because of something happened to the family or to him. I don't know, like he broke his leg, he lost his dad or mom. They have like they were displaced or moved from one country to another or a city or change, just name it. To make and to differ this, differentiate it from this, and from a reaction to something. Like if you are babysitting some kid and he was crying because he broke something, or he's missing his dad or his mom, it's not, we don't need to act as like, oh, we have a negative emotions, let's do like an
Mhm.
intervention or something. we
Yeah.
need we need to give stuff in context, and to deal with it as it is, and to support, and trying to ease a situation like negative emotions. I think it's the role of the parents, and the first, and the main caregivers. And if there is issues that are above their ability, then we need to advise professionals to get treatment or instruction how to work with the kid in situation like this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense because sometimes we just feel like when a kid is dealing with something, we just gotta fix it. But like you were saying, all we need to do
No,
is just be. We don't have to fix
no,
anything. They will.
no, they must, like, I prefer that the kid fix it, that
Yeah.
the kid to find the solution. Because if you keep solving things for the kids and making the atmosphere and their life conditions so easy and perfect, one day they will be independent and they will be outside, and then they will figure out that, oh, it's not like this shit, like, and then they will get stuck because they don't have the tools how to deal with it. So that's why I say that negative emotions and traumatic stress and these small things that actually challenge the kids and the children is something, it's necessary, and it's part of the process of growing up, and we have to to um, to to deal with it as it's something normal and part of our life, and not something that, oh god, I am a bad parent and don't know how it's happened to my kids.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds like something that we all need to be reminded of because yeah, it's probably part of our culture where we kind of have to fix things, but like you're saying, no, you don't. Just let them be. So, what are the three good things you would say to be there when parents start to, adopt this practice?
First of all, we need to know that we are the container that will contain the kids' bad emotions, struggles, challenges, sadness, happiness. Um, and if this container is full, then we can't contain anything and we can't be with the kids. And then we actually will be doing more than being. So, first of all, we need to take care of ourselves as parents. We need to make sure that we are not stressed, that we are not sad, that we are not depressed and anxious, that we are not tired, that we are working, not too much, that actually when we, taking care of ourselves, because if we don't, then it's really hard for us to be with the kids. And the kids are like, they have a great receptors and radars. They will catch this and they will understand immediately, oh, my parents are not okay. And then they naturally will start in taking care of us, what leads sometimes, if this is a continuous situation, to developing what we call a parental kid, a kid that actually have a parent role, which is not good, because he's taking care of the parents, not the opposite. So this is the first thing. The second thing is to make sure that the interaction with the kids has an eye connection, that the phone is aside, that there is no distraction. Don't start a play with a kid while you are texting or doing an email or waiting for an important phone call or something, because for you it's just a 5 minutes talk, or and I will come back to play with you. But for the kid, it's a huge disappointment because he was waiting for you like for 12 hours to come back from work, and you finally came back, and and while you were starting playing with him, boom, you disappeared. For him, it's too much to handle. So when you dedicate your time to the child, it's just for the child, no work, no phone, no distraction, no emails, no WhatsApp, no let's take a picture for Instagram and upload it, because he just don't care about this. And actually taking a picture will make him, stop the game, and like, what for? And all of this. So these two things, I think it's the most important thing. And the third thing is as I mentioned before, is to be with the kids, and to know that the small things, the simple things, is the things that will bring a lot of joy to the kids. If you bring the big, instruments and games and toys, and then the kid will be distracted, and we will be more busy with understanding what a game is, and too much, information and inputs, and then he will be happy, somehow, but actually there was no connection. So it actually, the toy or this kind of a big light things makes him happy, not the interaction with the parents. So we need to know that we are the center of this interaction, and we can bring in some toys or instruments or things around us that can improve the relationship. But the most important thing is to do this kind of interaction and the relation with our kid, and not the toy in the middle or the game in the middle.
Mm. Yeah, which is quite difficult for some parents because that's what they're so used to nowadays, given all the distractions we have. So, what would you say to be some of the main challenges when people start to adopt this practice?
We are addicted to screens. This is for sure. I have to admit, I'm not better than any parents, I think, that listening to us. um, and we are addicted to work, and our workplace is, they are so nice, they give us a lot of money and advantages and benefits and etc. And so that's why I am actually answering my email at 9 o'clock in the evening, and I am taking the phone call and stuff, because this is how the system works. It makes us like, they make us feel that, oh, they are so supportive and give us a lot of money and benefits on stocks, and then we have a chef in our company cooking for us during the day, and all these benefits. So when there's a phone call at 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening when you are with your kids, you will take it, because you want to lose your job, which is perfect conditions. So, and also the screens, the whole system, how it's built, the like and the share and the comment and the followers, and all of this, it just makes us like have a rush of adrenaline and dopamine, like, oh, I want this. So it's really hard to disconnect from all of this. You need really to practice it. For example, we succeed to do, not all the time, but back home, that when we enter, we just put the phones in the charger on the shelf, and it stay there all day. Like if I want to check the WhatsApp or the Instagram, or I want to send an email or answer the phone, I go there and do this. It's like I have a wire phone, like as we used to have in the
Yeah,
past.
yeah,
This will limit the at least the interaction with my screen. So it's not like "Toot-toot," or I have it in my pocket so I can check even it's silent or something. So start with this, and slowly we will be detached and less connected to the screen. But this is, I think, the most hard challenge that parents and we are going through. Even when we go out for dinner with friends, sometimes you just look at the table and you see everyone is actually texting, and no one is actually talking with each other.
yeah,
So yeah, it's putting this thing aside, and have make a no phone zone in the in the playroom or in the children.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. If we want to be there, with the kids and be present, that's very, very important. And I would reckon you practice this every day, but would there be other things that you would say to impact the frequency of how you practice this? And if so, how do you deal with it? How do you find time for it?
It's actually, it saves you time, because when you try to play with your kid with all of this around, you keep playing and playing, and you see that your kids is not happy, and you try more, and because you have this connection all the time during the play, because you answer them all, so it makes the interaction with the kids for 2 hours, and you will be frustrating because you don't feel that your kid is really happy and stuff. So actually, if you say, okay, from 6 to 7, I will be putting everything aside and will be doing this, and then I will be going back to answer my emails. Trust me, after 1 hour, the kid will be like overwhelmed and happy, and like he's satisfied and full, and he will be ready for dinner and bed, and you can go for your half an hour emails and phones, and you can close everything. So it's something that actually will save time rather than it will be more complicated to do.
Yeah.
It's like when you try to make someone quit smoking and say, dude, like, you will be more healthy and you will save money if you do this. But it's hard for everyone to do this because they are addicted. So it's the same like here. Put your phone aside when you are with your baby or with children for 1 hour. You actually will have a better relationship. You will improve your kids, and you actually will do better work because you will be concentrated also and focused in your work after that, and not answering an email and say, oh god, I just sent the wrong this, or I shouldn't do this, and I was anxious, and etc. So actually it will save time, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. So those are some of the benefits that parents or guardians would get from adopting this practice. But what about the children? How would that affect and impact the children's happiness or perception in life?
the children are at that age, children is we they are mirroring us. Like, they if we are sad, they are sad. If you are anxious, they are anxious. And if you are happy, they are happy. So when we play and tense and we are like, oh, can I answer? The kids will be like this. Their attention span will be shorter, and that's why we see a lot of ADHD, attention deficit disorder now, and etc. And kids are more impulsive and stuff. So when we have this kind of interaction, we like when we succeed to be with the kids, then the kids will be more satisfied, more calm, and they will be enjoying these small moments. And these small moments, as I said, is the base on the core of happiness. So we will have a happy, calm kid. But if we are type of parents that like doing and screaming and phones and emails and yeah, let's play and let's jump and okay, go to the trampoline and jump there and while I'm talking and come back, and then it's this is how it's like, oh god, this is just make the kids more and more hyperactive and impulsive and anxious, and they don't really actually feel the happiness in the relationship. So yeah, it's all about, at the end, comes back to happiness, for the kids when we succeed to be with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know that there are different types of parents, different types of guardians, like living arrangements, types of jobs. Which type of parents would you recommend this practice to?
So I don't understand your question.
Yeah, so as I said, different parents have different arrangements, different kinds of work. So would you recommend this practice to all kinds of parents or certain people with certain, job arrangement? Because a lot of parents aren't even home when their kids are home. They're only home when kids are asleep, for example.
So when we decide to bring children to the world, we need to be ready for that. It's not going for a course or get a certification to do this, but you know that you have to dedicate some time during the day for them, like going out at 5 o'clock in the morning and coming back at 11, and you didn't see your kids, and you say, oh, okay, but I spend Saturday and Sunday with them. Oh, no, it's not about the amount of hours, the average, total average, per month. They need a care from both parents every day. So we need to adjust our work to do this. So we'll be available for the kids. Uh,
Yeah.
so and what I just mentioned now, as I said, it's not a practice that I invent, or this is what the literature said or the books, or no, it's actually, I'm talking about the very deep instinct that every parents had inside him, like the cats and the dogs and any other animal had, when we have a baby in our hand for the first moment. So and what I'm trying to say is to go back to that moment and just put all these distractions that animals don't have it. Actually, that's why they're the puppet is always happy. I don't know, I'm not a vet, but I think there's no depression in puppet children. They are all the time happy. It's because the mama dog is with them 24 hours and feed them. We know that WHO, the World Health Organization, talk about three things that the kids need. It's just joy and like good food, joy, and play. Like they need to eat and play and be happy. That's it. So they didn't mention PlayStation or trips or I don't know, the biggest bed or a unicorn room or an Elsa, I don't know, bed or something. They are talking about really very basic things. So yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And finally, for this segment, we would love to hear from you if you could recommend some other practices to combine with this practice so that we could, help children and especially for parents who which we who wish to learn more about this,
Mhm.
to perhaps, not just help children deal with their negative emotions, but improve the relationship between parents and children.
Go out, go out, because the biggest player that we have is outside, is nature, is the forest, is the lake, is the sea, is the beach. At home, most of the things are, kids are regular to it and they're already familiar with it. So go out, go to the woods and play there, because the kids will find a lot of interesting things, and you actually will find a lot of interesting things. It will calm us down. It will gives us more opportunities and things to do with the kids, and it will improve definitely the relationship, our well-being, and at that moment. So yeah, try to go out as much as you can. It's the best thing that you can do to yourself and to your kids, definitely.
Yeah. That's a great advice. And sometimes parents just get so busy they forget about going out with the kids.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely something that we should all be reminded of. Alrighty. So now we're going to jump into the main part where we discuss the topic of today. And normally we always ask our guests to give us a definition of happiness because this show is about happiness. But we also know that happiness means different things to different people. So, what does happiness mean to you?
I don't know. I think it's the happiness is in the small moments. Yesterday, when I moved my baby girl from our bed to her bed, I just kissed her and she smiled to me during she was sleeping, and I think it was like the most happy moment I ever, experienced in the last few years. So. It's all about these small moments of interaction with the people we love.
Yeah.
Happiness is in the small things, are not in the big things, for sure. So, and you don't need to look for happiness, um, because if you be looking for the happiness or trying to achieve happiness, at the end you will be achieving pleasure, and it's a totally different thing. So just be yourself and try to interact with the people you love, and in a very simple way, and happiness will come to you.
Yeah. Perfect. So, another question that we always ask is given that you have your own definition of happiness, what do you think a lot of people get wrong when it comes to happiness?
I think they mix between happiness and pleasure, um, and there are most people are seeking pleasure rather than happiness. And pleasure is a moment. It's not a feeling. It's a very short, feeling of when you have like a rush of dopamine, and you got your brand new car, you got your Tesla, and after 1 week you're just like, okay, I want to change the Tesla to something else because that's it. But happiness is that when you saw your kid at the first time in the delivery room, like in the hospital, and you will be happy every time you saw him, every time you're gonna see him, be with him, even if he's at the age of 50, you're still happy when you see him. So this is the difference between the happiness, which is have to do something with interaction with a human being and people we love, and pleasure that is related actually to mechanics and money and position and likes and shares and follows.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like that's not genuine happiness. It's just a fleeting moment of pleasure, like you were saying. So, yeah, absolutely. That's a really good perspective on that. And now we're going to go back to children experiences and negative emotion and in the context of happiness. With your background and your work, how do you think negative emotions affect children experiences and perspective in life and in consequence their happiness in life?
I think that the negative emotions is something that can, with the right intervention or the right reaction. I don't think it's intervention because we don't intervene in a situation like this. It's just the reaction, the mirroring of the parents. When we do it in a right way, these can be actually a main, steps or cornerstones of developing the happiness in the child's life. Um, because when the child is satisfied, even though he doesn't have a PlayStation or a Barbie or money or the big house, he's happy. But if the child can't deal with this bad emotions or negative emotions, that he doesn't have the what PlayStation or Xbox as his classmates, and he then he will be miserable and sad most of his life, because even when he grow up, he wants to be a billionaire and have Tesla, and does it, and not all people can be billionaires. So when we succeed to help our kids deal with their frustration and negative emotions and etc., we actually improve their resilience, and we actually make them enjoy the small things and be more happy in the future.
Yeah, that's beautiful, as we should all bear in mind, because I think as much as we talk about negative emotions, like you were saying earlier, I think one of the point you touched on was it's not necessarily something we kind of avoid all the time. It's more like, for example, let the kids deal with it. Let them learn from the experience, and there they will find their happiness, because they wouldn't be able to understand what happiness means to them until they have been able to deal with the negative parts of their emotions. That's really beautiful. And that is the kids' perspective. What about adult? As adult, how can we understand children emotions better, especially the negative emotion side of thing? And also, how do we need to hide our negative emotions from children, because that would somehow be interpreted as helping them with negative emotions by some people.
I think I will start from the end. I think hiding our negative emotion is not, it's not clever, because we will not succeed to do this even if we try, because the kids has a perfect radars for parents' emotions, and they will feel that something is not good. So it's better to be ourselves, and not coming and sharing the, sit with your 6 years old kid and say, look, we have a financial crisis, and this is the situation. No, it's not that level. But the kids and the children should and have to see us as parents sometimes in a bad mood. They should know that we have a good and a bad mood. They, at the end, in the total, we are much more good situation and good parents than a bad. But they have to deal with this side, because at the end, it's like, take it as a they are practicing relationships, and they are practicing their social life until they reach adulthood, and we are the adults who are taking care of them, and we are their mentors. So if as a mentors we all the time keep saying everything, we are good, 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 then when they grow up and they are becoming uh, uh, um, independence, then they will not understand why their boss is acting like this. So once the boss is screaming or have a bad mood, they will quit, or so it actually will affect them. But when the kid actually understand that also, this good person, this good mom and dad, also has few hours, days, months that they have some issues, and etc., and we try to, as I said, not expose them to hard content, but to actually share it with them in an amount that fit their cognition and their age and etc., then they actually will grow from this, and they will succeed to understand situation like this from their supervisor, teachers, literature, like in the future. So yeah, this is how actually we need to interact with our kids when we feel that we are, feeling bad or something. It's not like, I am good, I am good. No, you are not good. Tell your
Yeah.
kid, I'm a little bit tired now, we
Yeah.
will play tomorrow or something
Mhm.
like this.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
don't fight
absolutely.
because you will not succeed to do actually.
Mm. And I feel like it probably will have a ripple effect because I'm guessing that if parents hide their negative emotions, the kids will then in turn sort of feel like they need to hide their negative emotions as well. And that is the other part of the equation that we're talking about. As adult, how can we understand children's negative emotions better?
Kids usually they less speak, they act. To reach a point where you can just put your hand on your head and forehead and say, "Oh God, life is hard and I have some issues." Kids can't do this. They're still not in that level. So we need to be aware for all the signs when the kids are not okay. They usually do more than talk. So when they will have pain in the stomach while everything is okay, when they don't want to go to school, when they are like crying sometimes, or sometimes they become very violent or aggressive, or and screaming or fighting, and all these changes in the child's habits and behaviors are signs of, okay, there's something not good that going through, that our kid is going through. So this is the time or the right point where we need to intervene and actually ask him what the problem, and try to make him translate these action to words. This is how he will understand what he going through, and you say, yeah, I am sad because there's a kid in the school do 1 2 3. So, and in the future he will be less like, as an adult, for example, when he get angry, he will not be broken, the whole office, and become violent, because he can actually stop and talk about it.
Yeah.
And this is what we should do with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's very interesting and very insightful for parents and maybe adults that still struggle to understand kids sometimes. I know that I do, for sure. Sometimes when I hang out with my nieces and nephews, I don't understand why they behave in certain ways. So it'll be really good to apply some of the tips that you just shared. So another thing that we wonder, if you could share more about, given your expertise, is how do children understand their negative emotions differ from adults? Because they would be able to observe adults' negative emotions, but then they have their own as well.
No, but the thing is depends on the age of the kid. When we are talking about a 16 years old teenager, it's not the same like in the age of 6 or 10 or 7, and also the understanding of a lot of concepts like death. It developed around the age of 10, 12, 11. All these change and make the children understand in a different way. um, so when we are talking about teenagers, for example, we can deal with them as young adults, and we can talk with them and be more open, and there were they to help them actually express this by words. uh, Less than teenagers, like childhood, early childhood, and we are talking more about, as I said, more about acting. They don't actually understand what's happening. That's why, like, we actually try to help them. I think, dear, that you are tired. That's why you are nervous now. I think you are hungry. That's why you are screaming. That's right, that are you sleepy? Let's go to bed. Like yesterday, my girl, she was like, something happened, and you are tired, dear. Let's go to bed. And after you say like 3 4 times, it's like you have like, oh, moment. She said, yeah, I am tired, daddy, please take me to your bed, I want to sleep in your bed first. And then I we took her and put her asleep, and she slept 1 hour earlier than usual. But we felt that she's not okay, so we start asking, are you hungry? No, my wife says, say, no, no, she ate really well. Are you this, are you this, and then we reach the point, oh, you didn't sleep at the kindergarten, so maybe you are so tired, especially that your friend came over and you played so much. And then she went to sleep. So once after once and time after time, my baby girl Alma one day will understand that this feeling she had is actually tired. Like it's
Mm.
mean that she's tired and she need to sleep. And then she will not be doing all of this, I don't want, and stuff, and she will be going directly to bed. So that's why it's the importance to actually translate their acts to words. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very interesting because when you gave that example, I realized that when I look back in my own childhood, it was similar. You know, when I was a little kid, for example, I didn't understand why I was feeling agitated and why I was restless. And then now that I look back on some of the stories and moments that happened, maybe I was agitated because, my lunch was late. Maybe I was just hungry. Or
Even now,
yeah,
sometimes even as an adult, sometimes like we are like, why am I nervous now? And
yeah,
oh, man, it's because of this WhatsApp message from
yeah,
this bastard or something. Like we still do this because
yeah,
sometimes, why am I it's just because of the bad news I heard about what happened here and there or stuff
yeah,
like this. So we keep doing this. So as much as we grow up and we become more, and we have more resources, inner resources, outside resources, our cognition will develop, then it will much easier for us to find these moments and become something, automatically. But
yeah,
even though sometimes we have these moments once a week, twice a week, that we are not okay, and then we say, oh, it's because of this.
yeah,
So yeah, we need to
yeah,
help the kids in situation like
absolutely. Yeah, which is why I think it's a perfect way to translate it back to how kids would analyze the situation. It's kind of like
that.
they're on a growing journey as well. So they don't have enough data point for them to understand why they felt the way they feel.
This
But
is
yeah,
what we need. This is why parents are exist. It's just to bring the outside world
yeah,
to the children, and so they can practice it and be ready to the moment
mm,
when they will rent their apartment far away from us and be independent.
yeah. Yeah, it's such an interesting journey that everyone goes on at one point in their life. So this would be great insights for anyone, not just parents, but even, young adults or people that start to think about having a family, that was also be important because you know they have to be prepared for that. And even though you said, yeah, you like cats, they just have babies are happy if they're with their babies, but it is a learning curve, I think, especially for me.
Yeah,
I
sure.
haven't really thought of it, but now that you mentioned all these little things, I just start to notice, yep, that is something to keep in mind, definitely going to be helpful for later. So you mentioned this a little bit earlier in our conversation, and I understand that you give psychological intervention to children in crises, and especially refugee children, so that they don't develop trauma and PTSD from their experience. So, in the daily life, what can adults do to assist children in dealing with their negative emotions, so that it's not becoming worse or become a clinical problem?
As I said, negative emotion is not something that we need to intervene in a level that of like a professional level. Let's ask this question a different way. What people or parents should do when their kids are witnessing or going through a traumatic stress, like a real trauma, the car
Yeah,
accident.
sure.
They
Yeah.
went a car accident, nothing happened, everyone is okay and not injured. We had a very hard car accident, all the family, back in the 1st of September last year, 2021.
Oh,
No one injured, like
okay.
miraculously.
That's good.
But
Yeah.
when I make sure that everyone is safe and everything, I make sure that the kids have a um, good experience from all of this. So we took out the kids, and the police came, and the ambulances, and a lot of people, and etc. And we start playing with them. Like I say to Alma, yeah, this is the police officer. Look at the chakalaka. Look at the lights, and my baby boy, which is like he was like 8 9 months, like he was playing with the police and the lights. And so they were smiling and stuff. And then they said, okay, let's go to the hospital with the ambulance. I say, no, 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 like I'm a doctor, I check them, they are fine. I prefer to go home, like they can go home with their grandfather in the car, and if there's something wrong we can go to the hospital. This is no one do this, just because I'm a child psychiatrist. The normal scenario is like screaming, and they will put the babies in the ambulance, and the parents will read woo woo, and they go to the ER and they check them,
Yeah.
and nurses and lights, and then they go home a day after. This is a crazy traumatic event. So we need to try to protect them from this. We need to take advantage that they don't really understand what happened, and to transform these event
Yeah.
or what happened with them to something positive. That's why in Humanity Crew, we our motto is that we exist to transform a trauma to a source of growth. So, and I think when our kids are going through these traumatic events and witness the stuff, we need to try to give them a different point of angle, like a different point of view. We need to try to give them a different narrative that is more easy, sometimes even powerful and heroic, so they cannot keep them in this kind of experience that they are overwhelmed and don't really understand what happened with them. Then actually they will build a crazy narrative, and traumatic one. So, and we have this advantage because when we are adult is less, like if I ask from my wife, let's play with a police officer, she's like, come on, like, so we have this advantage, like
Yeah.
we need to take care of this, take this and opportunity and window that we have, and do this with our kids.
Mm. Yeah. That is very interesting because a lot of the time we as adults freak out ourselves when things like that happen. And in turns, we might subconsciously create an even worse situation for the children around us. And it doesn't just apply to parents. I think it applies to everyone because there would be other people involved in the situation. And sometimes the onlookers or the other parties might actually make it worse. So it's good for all adults to be aware of the effect of their action when these traumatic events
Mhm.
happen around children. So we could all be better equipped to deal with them in a way that would help them to not get into that state of trauma and potentially have
Mhm.
PTSD later down the track. So that's a really good part that I think anyone and everyone could walk away with a little bit more, insights and some
Mhm.
more encouragement in what we do and some inspiration for sure. I definitely felt that. So that's great. In one of your talk, you mentioned that only when we care for our mental health can we care for others and grow. So, as adult and parents, how do you think we can be more aware of our own mental health? Can you tell your story? Because I think you have a wonderful story to tell, especially when you come to the realization of taking care of your own mental health as a parent.
Yeah, you know that when you are a therapist, a psychologist, psychiatrist, or when you are just a normal person, not from the field that trying to help someone else, your tools is actually you. You're not a surgeon that will be open the chest and doing stuff. So if the tool is not okay, that you will not achieve anything in your intervention. So that's why we need to take care of ourselves. So if we are a parents, by default we are somehow in a position of a therapist, because we are actually responsible for our kids, and we need to take care of their emotions and provide them the whole support, and improve their well-being and resilience. So if we are as a parents and as an adult, we don't take care about ourselves, then we will be more anxious, aggressive, impulsive. We'll be busy with doing, less with being, and etc. So we need to understand that we are not a refrigerator, we are not a car that, we what makes us really different from a car or a refrigerator is that we have a soul and a mind. So during these times of the COVID restrictions and the pandemic, and we lost a lot of people we love, and there was no time to say goodbye sometimes, and we lost money on work and position and career, and a lot of fears from getting COVID and etc., and the unclear future, all of this actually affecting our mental health. So we
Yeah.
need to talk about this with professionals if needed. We need to recognize when we are sad, when we are actually anxious, when we are actually not sleeping well, eating well. So we need to take care of ourselves, and we need to start with the small things, sleep good, eat well, do sport, no news app in your phone.
Yeah.
Just limit your exposure to all these bad news, and spend more time outside in the nature with your kids without phones and social media. Enjoy these small moments, and don't act in from a panic way, a panic position. If you do all of this, most probably you will be a much more happier person, and you can actually transfer this happiness to your kids.
Mm.
But and if you don't, the kids will, as I said, there's a mirror, and the kids will be anxious like you. I
Yeah.
all the time give this simple example of, if there is a, I don't know, a spider, and the father or the mother just say, spider, screaming, and I do it 3 4 times, and then your kids will be doing this every time you saw a spider until the age of 100. So we need to be aware about these small things, even our phobia from stuff. So
Yeah.
how come when we are talking about, like more our state of mind, and our well-being and reactions and the way we talk? So first thing, take care of yourself. That's like in the airplane. When there is a
Yeah.
oxygen, first you
Absolutely.
put for yourself, and then for your baby. It's the same.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And there's another saying, it's a very famous saying, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And in this scenario, you're that cup. You're the parent, especially when if you want your kid to grow to be well, then you cannot just not take care of yourself and hope that whatever you do, the kids will be fine. It doesn't work like that. I think a lot of people forget about that sometimes because of the daily busy hustle and bustle. But we always need that little reminder. So yeah, thank you for giving us that reminder. And the final question that we want to ask you today about the topic is, as a psychiatrist, what do you think that people need to do to understand, to do or understand to raise healthy, and by healthy women, both physically and mentally happy children?
I think they need to check with themselves what made them happy in the past,
Yeah.
like in the childhood, and do the same. Then
Mm.
they will so, and they will see that it's actually all about the small things. Like when I'm saying, like, please think about your childhood, like tell me, or one of the good memories that makes you happy. Trust me, no one ever will tell you, yeah, I am so happy when I get a car from my dad, or I get a PlayStation, or an Xbox, or a new phone. We usually remember and describe, like, yeah, I remember when we go a trip to the beach, yeah, or happened this, or like a day I built a wood house with my dad in the backyard. It's all about small moments that we have with our parents, and have to do nothing with money, with big things and etc. So go back to the moments that makes you happy, and try to duplicate these moments with your kids, and then you will figure out it's actually cheap. It's not that expensive. You don't need to work 16 hours to send your kids to hundreds of courses and I don't know what. And you don't need a big resort. All you need is a small, we used to have to live in a very small apartment until last year, really small. And we used to have a pool inside the house. Like, we open a pool, it's water, and like we dress like with a swimming suit with the baby. We enter there, we play. It's like we felt that we have a villa, like, but we actually have like less than 50, 60 meters square.
Yeah.
Like, but we had a pool in our house, you
Yeah.
know. Like, there's nothing different from the house of Bill Gates and our house. We have a pool too, so, and we enjoy the moment.
Yeah.
So just be there for the
Mm.
kids, and everything will be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. And especially when the kids see that you're so happy with the things that are so simple, that will then in turn make them happy too. And learn that happiness lives in little things, doesn't have to be big things. So, it's a great reminder for a lot of parents because I don't have kids yet, as I mentioned, but I do talk to a lot of friends who have had kids, and there's a lot of pressure of, oh, like, which school do we get them to? We have to get them into a top school. We have to get them the best of all the experiences. But that wouldn't necessarily mean that the kids would be happy. So yeah, it's a really great different perspective for parents to adopt, especially when everyone's so stressed out about work and life. It's always a great thing to relearn every now and again. Alrighty, so that concludes the bit where we discuss the main topic of today, where we talk about children, their negative emotions, especially in the context of happiness. And now, before we wrap, we have a couple of little activities we would like you to participate, so that you leave an impression on listeners a bit more. The first fun activity we have is a role switch. I have asked you a lot of questions. I've bombarded you with all these tricky questions we come up with when we look at and follow your work. And now is your chance to ask me some questions back about the topic. I'm not an expert. I don't have kids yet, but will do my
Mhm.
best to answer any questions that might be helpful for listeners.
Yeah, it's interesting. um, do you think that your definition of happiness changed after our talk?
I think definitely. I think in the past I didn't really have a clear definition, but now that we have discussed happiness in general, what, happiness looks like for families, for children. I think I've added some nuggets of wisdom into how I would see happiness, like the little things, stop chasing material things, and
Mhm.
it's all about enjoying life, enjoying the little moments. And I think when you talked about childhood, that's when it really hits
Mhm.
me, and I think I add that to my pool of little things that add to my happiness because I remember how simple my childhood was. We had no TV, no screens, no phone. I didn't have a phone until I was a teenager and in my late teens. But I was a very happy kid, and I think that was because I didn't have any screens. So now that I've realized that my happiness definition definitely means that I gotta just enjoy life and enjoy the little things in life rather than worry too much about what's happening on all the different screens.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Okay.
awesome.
Um,
That's a great question. Really got me thinking there for a minute. Alrighty. So we are now gonna do another fun thing, which is called open mic, and this is our segment where we want to give back to the guests because we've talked a lot
mhm.
about your expertise area today, but we know that as humans, we always have different passion, different things we want to share. So here's your chance to talk to our listeners about anything that you're passionate about and or some nuggets of wisdom you want to share with people.
um, I just want to share about, displacement and refugees and immigrants is something that really, it's an issue that uh, getting a lot of attention the few years, and it's becoming like I don't like the word, like a problem for the Western countries, Australia, the US, Europe, and etc. And I don't want to judge why, if it's the right or not the right. For me, it's the right for everyone to be whenever, wherever they want. But the only thing that I just want to share with the people, and just want them to think about it, that people who succeed to cross the sea, people who succeed to take their family all the way from their country, homeland, cross mountains and seas and walk, and smugglers, and they cross the rough sea and all of this, and they succeed to reach the destination, are people who are strong. I actually prefer them to be my neighbor rather than anyone else. So stop judging, because if you leave your homeland, that means that your homeland is hell for you. Everyone want to be home, trust me. So if a family decided to leave and take their kids all these difficulties and risks, that means that it's more safer than their homeland. And if they succeed, that means that they are way strong than anyone else. So start celebrating the strength of the refugees.
Yeah.
This is my message to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I myself volunteer for an organization that helps refugee women in Australia. So I definitely hear the message that you're trying to send, and more people need to hear about that because it's such a massive social issues, but a lot of the time it might just be easier to look away. It's not. We should all look at it and understand that it's not something to run away from. It's something that we can look at and really celebrate the good things that could come out of it if we really we're passionate about it and want to do something different. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I wish more people would talk about that. And we really appreciate you coming virtually
Thank
today
you.
to our conversation and talk about children and their negative emotions in the context of happiness. And I definitely will go away with a lot of new learnings, and hopefully listeners do as well. So thank you for
Thank you
that.
so much.
You've been listening to Sero Boost, the Happiness Science Insights podcast, produced by the Happiness Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes are available from 10 life management perspectives and can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, and other podcasting apps available on your devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, share, and subscribe to our channel so that other people can find it and we can continue to provide quality content. More of our work can be found on our website at ha.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Lu Ngo. Thanks for tuning in.